Hello and welcome to another episode of a Brothers Creed podcast where we talk about motivation, experiences, and we explore the world around us. We are the Thomas Brothers, and I'm Jared.
And I'm Ethan. And today on this episode, we're going to be talking about being present. Being present at work, being present at home, being present with your wife, being present when it counts, right? We're going to talk about distractions. We're going to talk about social media. We're going to talk about other things that have the potential of distracting us from being present in the moment and what we're doing and where we are. And so I think this is something that everyone needs. So stay tuned for this episode.
Let's go ahead and dive in.
Spartans! What is your profession?
Any man who must say, I am the king, is no true king.
What I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills that make me a nightmare.
If I can change, then you can change. Everybody can change.
Let us all unite! Let us fight for a new world, a decent world.
All right, so this is such an interesting topic. I think it's become more prevalent as the emergence of social media. Well, I would say the emergence of computers in our pockets that are now, you have the access to the entire knowledge of all humankind in your pocket, and that can be distracting.
For sure.
In many ways. I was looking at like what a definition of being present means, and one thing I saw was that said being present means being fully conscious of the moment and free from the noise of your internal dialogue. It's often associated with feelings of stillness and peace. Sensations often become sharper. So it's really living in the now and enjoying every second that you get. I guess that's why they call it the present, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's a gift.
I saw it as kind of you're focused and engaged in the here and now and not distracted or mentally absent, which I thought was kind of interesting. Because you can be like physically in the here and now, and you can even be like participating in what's going on, but you can be completely mentally absent, like your mind is not there as well.
I think sometimes, and I've noticed all these things, I've noticed myself doing this sometimes, but also just other people doing this sometimes, is that like, say you're in a conversation with a group of people, but some people are only slightly interested in the topic that's being discussed. And so they'll often pull out their phone, and then they may make comments here and there on the conversation as they see the conversation being interesting or not interesting to them. And I feel like it's a weird phenomenon because it's like, well, are you paying attention? It's like someone turning their back on you in the middle of a conversation and then they're turning back around and saying, oh, hey, this point, this point, this point. And then you're like, oh, well, are you listening to me or are you not listening to me? So it's kind of a weird thing that we have nowadays where our attention spans are gotten so short that oftentimes we won't sit through a conversation that maybe we are not fully engaged in because there's so many different ways that we can feed our dopamine addiction to, get other stimuli at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I feel like now there's just an increased amount of distractions as well. But I feel like people maybe have gotten better at multitasking than in generations past, right? I mean, you could be carrying on a conversation over text while you're looking at social media, while the TV is going, while you're halfway listening to a conversation that's going on, and still kind of like pull out stuff and join in this conversation as you're doing all this other stuff, which, that wasn't possible even 50 years ago. I guess maybe the distractions were just less, but that doesn't make it, I guess, a good thing. If anything, it makes it worse.
Yeah. I think also part of being present is just giving other people the attention that they deserve and also that you deserve. Like sometimes if you're here's a tip for all men out there. If your wife is talking to you, and you're on social media, and she's saying more than just a passing comment, put your phone down and look her in the eyes, because and her too. I mean, like, nobody wants to be talking to someone who's not really looking at them, not engaging with them, and it kind of it comes off as if you don't care what they have to say, or you just want them to be quiet so you can keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
which I
So
don't
I'll
think that's
share
what's intended sometimes.
I'll share a vulnerable story. So this something I did the other day, and I'm not extremely proud of it. And well, my wife probably says I do this more than more than just the other day. But I was watching this YouTube video, and we were getting ready for bed, and I was sitting in bed, and I was watching this YouTube video, and it was like this. It was this guy. He was like this financial advisor, and he was talking about this certain type of investing that I was really interested in, and so I was trying to like understand the context of what he was saying. And I was sitting on the bed. I was already done getting ready, and my wife was in the bathroom, which which is like, I don't know, 4 steps away from the bed, and she was getting ready, but she kept like asking me questions, and so she would ask me like, I was watching this thing, and then she'd ask me a question, and I'd pause it, and I'd be like, "What'd you say?" And then she'd ask me again, and I'd answer it, and then the conversation would stop, and then I'd press play again, and I would keep watching it for like another minute, and then she'd ask me another question, then I had to pause it, and then I was like, "Sorry, what?" And it was just like going back and forth. I was so distracted because I was focused on what I was doing that it was like I completely butchered this conversation, that I this opportunity to have a conversation with my wife that I could tell. And then finally she was just like, "Never mind, just watch your thing." And I was like, "Oh shoot, dude." Afterwards I was like, I completely blew that opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, to have a good conversation. And she just was kind of just like, "Well, he's not paying attention to me. He doesn't want to talk to me, obviously, because every time I stop talking, he presses play on this video."
I don't think that the advent of social media is the nexus or the beginning of men not paying attention to their wives. I think that's that has likely been throughout all of history, or not paying attention when they should be. But
if
social
it wasn't
media,
watching a video, reading a book,
or in the newspaper, or
Yeah.
who knows? But I saw a meme once, and it was like, all the boomers saying that the millennials and the Gen Zers like are always so distracted, and it shows like a picture of everybody on the bus on their phones, and it was just like, and then it was a picture below it. I was like during like the 1970s or something like that, and everybody was reading a newspaper on the bus.
Yeah.
So it's not much different.
Nobody was talking to each other.
But
It's the same thing, just different technology.
Yeah. So I have some quotes here on just like the importance of being present that I wanted to share. One says, this is from author Mirko Thum. He says, "The present moment is the only thing where there is no time. It is the point between the past and the future. It is always there, and it is the only point we can access in time." I think that's so interesting. The only point that we can access in time. He says everything that happens in the present moment. Everything that ever happened and will ever happen can only happen in the present moment. It is impossible for anything to exist outside of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Interesting.
Except for sometimes I feel like that's not true, because whenever I go back and edit the episodes, I'm like, I stuttered at that point, or Ethan's audio was cutting out, or we said something that was just really stupid that we don't want to publish, so I can edit time. I feel
That
like
that never happened.
Yeah, I was like, that whole conversation, we're just gonna nix that part of the conversation because that was way off on a tangent.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that I kind of looked at was, how do you know that you're being present? And that's kind of an interesting question. It's like, well, I am being present now, or maybe I'm not, or am I distracted? And really kind of on a most basic level, being present means being focused on one thing, whether that's a conversation, a project, a task at hand, whatever it might be, without distraction, without wanting to be somewhere else, and without being in your head and lost in thought. I guess so. It's like saying, I thought it was interesting because it was without distraction and without wanting to be somewhere else and without being distracted or lost in thought in your head. And so, even if you put the phone down, right, and you let's say you get home from work and the kids are running around or kids want to play or something like that, and they're around on the whatever in the floor, and you're sitting on the couch, and even if you're not sitting on your phone, let's say you put your phone in your pocket, and even you're looking at the kids, and you might even be talking with them, but if you want to be somewhere else, or if if your mind is on work, or if your mind is on going to the garage and working on your project, or if your mind is on something else, then you're not being present in that moment. Which sometimes it's hard not to let your mind wander, and to be completely honest, especially with kids, it's hard to enjoy that,
especially with little kids.
every second of every day, all the time.
Yeah, I mean, for the past we went out to we were talking just last night that it's like during the past month or so more, my kids have been sick and they're up all night, and it's just like I would say like at least 60% of the time, it's just like, man, I want to be just by myself on the beach somewhere, like some beach somewhere, So I think that part of it is just like, I don't know that I would, personally, I don't know that I would say that not wanting to be somewhere else. I mean, if I'm longing to be somewhere else, like if I'm hanging out with you, Ethan, but I'm like, I absolutely do not want to be here, and I'm just dreaming of being, doing something else, then I guess that would distract a lot from the experience that I'm trying to have with you. And so I can understand that, but I think in some ways, especially as parents, someone's got to take care of these kids. And so, and I try to give them the best attention that I can because I love them very much. And so me putting my, second youngest son to bed for the 20th time at night, and like, I guess I'm not trying to be present. I'm trying to be as far from sleep as far asleep as I possibly can. But like, I don't know. There's a lot.
Sometimes you do things out of obligation or out of responsibility versus out of like wanting to be present.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to be present here at all. I want to be far, far away from here. But this is like what I got to do. And so, but I think that sometimes not every moment is like this beautiful child bliss situation. Even those moments when the kids are being great, and you're like having fun with them and stuff like that. Even in those situations, you might like be like, yeah, I wish I was out on a date with my wife because we haven't been out in several weeks or months, And I think that it's okay to have some of that, but I just think if you're balanced, if you're always longing to be somewhere else, then perhaps you're not balanced in what you're doing, and maybe you need a break, maybe you need a vacation. If you're at work and all day all you think about is not being at work, maybe you need to take some time off of work, so that you can just get a break.
Yeah. Well, and with kids too, it's kind of interesting too. You and I both have young kids. That it's just the interests are different, right? I mean, I might not, or my wife or I might not be. I mean, I still like Legos, right? But somebody might not. So I'll get down on the floor sometimes and I'll play with build little things with Legos with the kids, and they enjoy that. But maybe my wife might not like playing with Legos or playing with cars on the floor as much as my kids do right now. And so sometimes you'll get down, you'll do it, you'll bend down, or you'll watch your kid do a somersault for the 500th time as they say, "Daddy, watch this." And it's like, oh wow, a somersault! I'd seen that 50 times in a row. So yeah, being present. I mean, it's just kind of there's a responsibility, but I guess you gotta roll with it.
But one thing that kids do notice is they notice when you're on your phone, and like
they do.
One thing that's hard, like I do feel bad about sometimes if like I'm just trying to chill out after work and I'm just like, man, it's a long day at work, and like I'm just like chilling. The kids are kind of just running around crazy, and I'm just like kind of scrolling whatever, and they're like, Dad, let's can you watch me do this? Watch me do a somersault, or watch me do this cartwheel. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, can you put your phone down, Dad? And like whenever they say that, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm a terrible father.
I'm glad. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one. So
So I've been trying to. So one thing I've tried to do recently to be more present is, well, it's kind of been on and off, honestly. But one thing I have been trying to do is between like when I get off of work and when I put these kids to bed at night, which is only really 2 or 3 hours, I try not to be like on social media. Try not to be on my phone. Spend that time with them. I try to wrestle with my kids every night. Spend some time wrestling with them or being with them or talking to them about their day or whatever. And then after that, I can spend some time unwinding, doing whatever. But
well, and then what happens is what happened to my wife and I last night, where we were so exhausted, we put the kids down, and then we laid on the couch, and we each kind of like pulled out our phones or whatever, and then like 3 hours later, we were still on our phones. I don't think we said one word to each other. And it's just like, oh, well, I guess it's time for bed.
yeah,
So,
you gotta,
I mean,
yeah.
You got to be careful with that too. Be present with each other. So,
Yep, absolutely.
I had in here some different maybe examples of distractions, or even like some causes of distractions. And one of them, and this is kind of an all-encompassing one that encompasses anything from technology to social media or whatever, but your phone, right? And then this is kind of like from my own life, right? So my phone, or the phone, is a massive distraction. A lot of times children can be a distraction. Maybe if you're trying to concentrate on work, or you're trying to focus on something and you have kids, sticking their fingers under the door or pounding on the door while you're in a meeting or something like that, that's a distraction.
Or kissing
a lot
you
of
on the
times
back
you're-
of the neck while you're doing a podcast.
Yeah, seriously. Scaring the fool out of you. A lot of times too, your thoughts can be distractions, right? If you're not paying attention to something and your mind is wandering. Your feelings can be a distraction. Maybe somebody that's talking, you're just like, man, I don't agree with that person, or how you feel about someone. Or maybe if you're in love with someone, or you're looking at your wife and she's trying to explain something to you and you're like, man, she's gorgeous, right? I mean, that could be a distraction.
Yeah, exactly.
Being tired could be a distraction. You're just too tired. You can barely keep your eyes open. A lack of interest could be a distraction as
Yeah.
well.
Have
If
you
you're
ever
just
have
like-
someone try to explain to you a very complex thing that you have absolutely no interest in learning? Have you ever done that? And then you had to learn it?
Yeah.
There
Well-
was this thing we were doing at work the other day where literally it's like this thing called Bitbucket. And it's like you upload your code to this platform so that others can search it. And it's like this, you have to use like these special commands to do it in like this special, like almost like a DOS prompt. And I'm like, I don't want to learn these commands. I don't want to do this. I have no interest in doing this at all. But like, I had to go through this like training and then like actually do this stuff. And I'm like, what? I need a job where I don't have to do this.
Well, although, and also when somebody's trying to teach you or tell you that stuff, and you're literally like, I don't have to do this, so don't even bother with trying to tell me how to do this or tell me what it is. Like, I don't have to do this.
Yeah.
So lack of interest, and I mean the next one was kind of the same thing: is lack of understanding, right? If you're just like, if whatever somebody is saying is so technical, it's just completely going over your head. You're just like, nodding and saying yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a massive distraction, right? You're going to zone out.
Oh yeah.
But those are just kind of some things for me. And then moving forward is how do I practice being more present in what I'm doing? And so number one was noticing your surroundings, being more aware of your situation, like you said with the kids and you're on your phone after work or whatever. Just kind of be aware of that and say, well, I'm gonna maybe after work until we put the kids down, I'm gonna leave my phone on my desk, and then I'll come back and get the phone off my desk after the kids are in bed or something like that. Number two, focus on one thing at a time. The more you multitask, the more distracted you'll be. Even if you think you're a great multitasker, you can be distracted. Number 3, being grateful for what you have now. And kind of going back to the kids, they're only going to be this age once. You're only going to, my wife just told me today, my son I was laying on the floor, we're kind of wrestling around, and he had gotten a towel from the kitchen and he was trying to whip me with it. And, I grabbed it from him and I whipped him with it. And my wife goes, it's not going to be too many more years to where he's going to be able to like really whip on you. And I was just like, oh man, yeah. So I might as well just beat him up as much as I can now.
Yeah, totally. A few I would add to your list is just one interesting one I saw is like remove unneeded possessions. Talks about this, like minimalism helps you kind of put the past away and start living for the present. What's that song? Jumper by Third Eye Blind. You know that song. Love that song.
Mm-hmm.
It says, can you put the past away? I wish you would step back from that ledge, So he's just like, forget the past and live in today. Because if we keep rehashing old memories, old wrongs, or, old things that we've said, I do that all the time. And I try not to, but I'm kind of I'm an analyst by trade. And so like sometimes I'll I saw a TikTok the other day where there's like this girl like laying in bed and it's like me like awake at like 2:00 in the morning thinking about something stupid I said back in high school. And I was like, yeah, I do that too. I was like, man, I can't believe I said that. That was so stupid. But just like, that's not going to serve anybody. And that's just like letting go of those things. I like also also forgiving past hurts. We've talked about letting go of anger. We talked, that was a big episode that we did. If you want revenge, dig 2 graves, right? Or that was one.
Yep, it's like what is it? It's like drinking poison, hoping that the other person will die.
Yeah. And so also another thing is like don't dwell on past accomplishments either. So like if you've done something in the past, don't dwell on that, like because that will placate you from achieving more greatness and more things. So obviously it's important to acknowledge those, but like don't continually dwell on those. Like that will prevent you from living in the present.
Yeah, well, and one thing too that goes along with that I kind of came across is accepting things how they are now and not how you want them to be in the future, right? Like, I'm going to keep going back to the kids, but it's like, the kids are such a hassle now, and they're so little, and they don't go to sleep at night, or they don't, they can't keep up with me when I'm running or when I'm doing this or that. And so it's almost like you're kind of wishing away this time, because before you know it, they're going to be older, and then they're going to be gone, and then your whole life's going to be different, and you're going to be looking back, and you're going to be saying, oh man, I wish I had those days again. So accepting things how they are now and not always just wanting them to be different.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree. I think that another one that I had on the list was to conquer your addictions. When your addictions restrict you, they restrict your freedom. And so by conquering those, whatever they may be, will help you be free and help you to live in the moment so that you're not distracted. Like, oh, I need that cigarette, or, oh, this is fun, but I need to drink while I'm having fun. A lot of people don't even know how to have fun without drinking alcohol. And so there's a lot of, that's something that distracts you or why do you think that people are addicted to these drugs in the first place? Because it makes them feel amazing. You think a heroin addict doesn't feel good when he takes heroin? Obviously, he feels amazing. That's why he wants to take it again and again and again. And so, that can be such a huge distraction mentally. And so.
Yeah. So I was listening to this book. It's called Unf Yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it's just about like a complete body, mental, and physical reset in your life. And it's really kind of interesting. But one of the chapters was on distractions. And I implemented one of the things that he talked about in this chapter. And it was, he talked about the thousands upon thousands of micro distractions that we get every single day. And he gave an example of your cell phone, right? Every time you download an app, what is one of the questions that they ask you to do?
Push
You know,
notifications.
allow push notifications.
I always say
allow
no.
push notifications. I always said no too, but that was his one thing is he said pull up your phone right now and look at how many apps you have that push notifications. And for those of you who don't understand push notifications, basically it means that you have like an app, let's say like your email on your phone, right? If your phone gets an email, then it's going to buzz as if you got a text message. Or even if you Facebook on your phone or Instagram or whatever else, if somebody comments or likes your Facebook page or your Facebook picture or comments on it, it's going to buzz as if you got a text message. And so I went through and it was like, because I usually say no on push notifications anyway, but it's like, email, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, your Ring doorbell. My
Yeah.
Ring doorbell goes off like freaking crazy. There's someone at your door. Someone at your door. It's just like cars or people walking by in front of the house.
You need to turn on sensitivity on that thing, dude.
Well, I know I did, but
But yeah, totally.
like
Mine goes off all the time.
Weather notifications, your investment apps that say, "Oh, your investment is up 2% or this or that." I had downloaded Reddit because I was looking at something, at some forums and stuff like that, and it was just like constantly buzzing, and so my phone was just constantly buzzing for something. It's like all of those apps, something was happening in all of them, and they were all pining for my attention.
Yeah.
And it was like my phone was just constantly buzzing. And so I was at work and I'm sitting there and my phone's in my pocket and I can feel it buzz, buzz, buzz. And when your phone buzzes, what do? You look at it.
Because you're like, well, maybe someone sent me 10 Bitcoin, or maybe my wife's having a problem at work. Maybe my wife needs my attention,
Yeah. And what's even worse is I have my phone pushes my notifications to my watch.
Yeah, exactly.
And so now my watch is buzzing too. My phone's buzzing, my watch is buzzing, just because somebody liked a podcast, one of our podcast episodes. And it's like, do I really need to know that right now at this moment?
Yeah.
While I'm trying to do things.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess mostly it was at work, right? Or it was like, I get a notification on the weather app that's like, oh, it's going to be raining this afternoon. It's like, well, do I really need to know that? Or now I have to stop what I'm doing, look at my watch or look at my phone and say, oh, it's going to be raining this afternoon. And then I got to refocus on what I'm doing. And so it's like these thousands of micro distractions that we get every single day. And so I went on my phone and I turned off every single one of those push notifications. And so now the only reason, if my phone rings or if my phone buzzes, the only reason it's going to buzz is a text message or a phone call. Which phone calls, with all the freaking spam I'm getting anyway, is never answer my phone.
I hardly ever answer my phone. Yeah.
Yeah, but text messages, if somebody texts me, that's like they need a response.
Yeah. I wish they could do it to where like you could block any number on your phone. Like it just like wouldn't ring if you don't have the phone in your contacts. If you don't have that number in your contacts.
Yeah. So
because I get so many spam calls. I get calls for you all the time, man. Hey, Ethan.
Well,
hey,
that's what
man,
happens when
how are you?
That's what happens whenever you have Ethan's high school
cell phone number. But they're not old girlfriends. They're people that currently want your business at your job.
Yeah, well, I don't know how they got that number. Somebody leaked my private information.
Yeah, I guess so.
But I guess if you have my private information, then it's just going to go to Jared's phone.
Yeah, well, I get phone calls from everybody all over the family. Man, those people that are buying the properties and stuff, man, those guys are like ravenous wolves, man.
Yeah. Well, and I think we all at one point at least had our domicile at mom and dad's house, and so we're getting calls like, hey, are you wanting to sell your house at whatever?
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, well, that's not my house, but I'd love to sell it.
Yeah, I've gotten calls like on Eric's place. I mean, I like all over. So I was like, dude, that ain't my place.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just it's interesting.
But I think,
But that's
yeah,
yeah.
go
I
ahead.
was just saying that's something that I did. I implemented on my phone is I turned off every single one of those push notifications, and actually, it's been very nice.
Yeah.
Because I'll go through and I don't need to know if an email comes across right this minute, right this second, right that I'll check it. I'll still go in and check my emails a couple times a day, but I'll do it on my own accord. I don't want it shoved down my throat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. I've recently just muted my front door Ring camera because I was tired of seeing notifications all the time. It's like, oh, kids are home from school. Oh, kids are leaving to go play with their neighbors. Oh, kids are playing in the driveway. Oh, kids are doing this.
Yeah.
And so I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't need that many distractions, especially my wrist just buzzing. That's a great tip. Very good. I had one other quote here about time. This one's by Eckhart Tolle. So he says, time isn't precious at all because it is an illusion. What you perceive as precious is not time, but the one point that is out of time, the now. That is precious indeed. The more you are focused on time, the past and future, the more you miss the now, the more precious thing there is. So, interesting, way of thinking about it. Is it like right now is the only thing that there is. Anything past, anything future is just out of scope.
You're constantly running out of time.
Was it Dave Matthews? I don't believe in time. Dave Matthews. So I think this is such a good concept and something that we just need to remind ourselves of often, is just to be present, especially with those that we love. And also it will bring a stillness and a peace into your life that as you stop just focusing on the future. I know sometimes like me as like a driver and someone who's trying to make goals and all this kind of stuff, I'm trying to think in the future, trying to think about what I could do, what things I could build now that would, benefit my family and myself later on. But just enjoying the now and, is so critical and to show that also those that we love, that we do truly care about them, to be present with them.
Yeah.
So that's our challenge.
Be present.
Go be present with somebody that you love. Be present. Look them in the eyes. Show them that you care. And we could all probably do some good when just putting down our phones and enjoying the time with our children and our spouses or those we love or friends. And it's going to bring you more satisfaction than anything on your phone.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things that we have in our life, and I think that I underestimate, and many of us underestimate, is relationships. And a lot of times when we're on our phone or we're scrolling or whatever, we're not building relationships with anyone.
No.
And so, I like what you said. Put it down, look somebody in the eye, give them the attention. The story I was telling about my wife and that YouTube video that I was watching and I was distracted. That YouTube video is going to be there tomorrow. That conversation with my wife, it might not be there tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And she might have forgot what we're talking about, or, she might just say, oh, I don't want to bring it up again or whatever else. Like, I don't know. So I will be implementing this, trying to be more present in my life. I suggest, Jared, you do the same.
Yes.
And I suggest that all of our listeners and our followers out there, you do the same. You implement into your own personal creed the ability and the power of being present.
Yep. Let's build that creed together.